Welcome to I Do This for a Living, a show that asks how we can spend as much time and energy on the things that matter as we do on the things that pay. Sometimes the things that matter pay, and we'll talk about that too. I'm your host, Serenity Bohan. I started this podcast so I could have work I love. Today, I am continuing the series that could be called The People I Admire Most Are in My Actual Life. I am the second of 4 children. I have 2 sisters. Their episodes aired May 6th, Felicity, and June 3rd, Charity. I share the middle of this family with my guest today, my brother, Joseph Nickerson, or Joe. You have to tell me which one to use in this podcast. Do you usually introduce yourself as Joseph or Joe?
Joe.
Okay. Well, you're going to get a chance to do that because this is my idea for you for introduction. Have you seen those social media posts where people say, I have a lot of new followers, so let me reintroduce myself? Have you ever seen that?
Yeah.
Okay. So you have a pretty active social media presence. So I figure you know that language. So how would you introduce yourself if you suddenly had a new influx of followers, probably because of this podcast, I'm just going to say.
Yeah, I didn't know myself. Hi, I'm Joe. I am a husband and a father. I enjoy the outdoors, hunting, occasionally some fishing. I enjoy playing the bass. Um, and then it inevitably ends with, and I'm a cop.
I'm a cop. You use the word cop?
Yeah,
So
I do.
cool. Okay. I'm so excited about this. So first of all, I've talked to Charity and Phyllis, and I didn't ask Felicity the early understanding of work that she had, but I did ask Charity. Charity and I have very similar experiences. And then I did get some intel from Phyllis too, but I want to hear your early understanding of what work is.
I think work. Well, our dad, he's retired now, but he was a family practice physician with some stints also as the ER doctor. Um, so it was like a lot of your identity. Like my dad's a doctor, that always came up, and we lived in a small town where he was the doctor. So it was, oh, you're Doc Nickerson's kid. So a big part of your identity and just what you do. Like he was gone every day at work. Um, if you ever watched Little House on the Prairie, he's like Doc Baker. He would do house calls, and people would show up at our house at 2 in the morning, asking for stitches. And we also sometimes got paid in like zucchinis and chickens. So very, very different than what you'd think of as people think, oh, you were in a doctor household. You guys are probably loaded and all this stuff. We always lived in a small town. And just, I don't know, that's what it was. So I knew like, to me, work was a big part of like your identity or just who you were. Like you do something like I'm a doctor, I'm a cop, I'm a garbage man. That's just kind of who that was my thought process. So growing up, it's like, what am I going to be? Was kind of how I thought of work.
Did you? Oh, so many questions. Actually, I know we joked about the country doctor thing, but I actually did feel I got my concept of what a doctor is from the game of life, where you really wanted to be a doctor or a lawyer because they were the rich ones. So even though our experience was we joked that dad was the country doctor who got paid in chickens, I really did kind of believe we're rich. We're certainly fine because dad's a doctor.
Sure.
You
Yeah.
had that?
No, yeah, I don't think I honestly, when it came to like money or income, I don't know if I had a concept of that.
Yeah.
Um, we didn't do allowance or like, work for my stuff. It was like you helped around the house and mom and dad bought your clothes and your shoes and snacks and that's just what it was. So I never felt like we were wanting necessarily. I would, because I was always surprised. Like I'd tell people my dad's a doctor, and they'd be like, "Oh, well, what kind of car do you drive?" I'm like, I don't know, like 83 Ford F-150 pickup. Like what?
A big blue and tan van.
Yeah, I don't think it was until later in life I realized, oh, people just expect doctor families to be loaded because it's typically a very high-paying profession. So it's not early on. The work was the identity of who you are, what you do with your time. Wasn't necessarily tied to how much money you make or how you take care of your family or that kind of
Absolutely same. The big difference, like Charity and I, she's the youngest in the fam, and I'm the middle daughter. We both had a real artistic view, kind of. We saw the arts in church and stuff like that too, and so we were kind of like, I'm going to get to do whatever's fun and whatever. But I've been examining it lately, and I definitely got the message from mom and dad. Like, I always thought about work, which is surprising to people who know my complicated relationship with work. But I really did always think, what am I going to do? I knew there was a doing part to life. I'm going to do something. But I absolutely thought, I'll be a doctor if I'm called to be a doctor like dad. I'll be a writer if that's my gift like mom. Mom also had jobs where she assisted him, like she was his office manager. She did that because she was supporting him, not because she needed a part-time job. And same with some church jobs that she had. It was always tied to meaning and sort of calling and stuff like that. And so I think that explains some of why it's been hard for me to see work as an exchange transaction, that you do it for money, but then you really need money. So that's just the case sometimes. Felicity, it was a little more to me. She didn't really get the money thing either, but she had um, she had ideas about jobs of things to be that were more would make money, like lawyer. Apparently, she wanted to be a lawyer at some point. I'll have to have her on again. I know.
Pretty bossy
So I
growing up.
love that you had. What'd you say?
She was pretty bossy growing up, so she'd probably be a good lawyer.
Yes, she wasn't bossy. Her ideas were just better. And her and dad would butt heads more than any of us, because maybe they were both a little bossy. I don't know. Um, I love that you got that same message from mom and dad. And what I discovered today is they back it up. They agree that that is the message they presented. So then I can't wait to hear if you still tie job to identity, or if you were able to see it differently. So what was the first glimmer for you as a kid? What kinds of things did you think you were going to be?
I didn't remember this, but when I went into full-time law enforcement, my first full-time law enforcement job, a dear friend of ours who's now passed away, David Gray, he provided me with a picture from when I was 7 years old that said, I want to be a policeman. He, he kept that from a Sunday school class when I was 7 years old. So this was 22 years later. I don't know why he kept that, but when I got the full-time job, he dug it out and said, oh, look, you've been wanting to do this since you're a kid. I don't remember that. Honestly, my earliest memory of thinking about I need an occupation, I need a job, was I was going to be a garbage man, because in our small town they were still riding on the back of the truck and picking up the cans by hand, and I was like, oh, they get to be outside all day, ride around a truck. That looks kind of fun. Like, I love the outdoors, so that the idea of being outside sounded good. But probably after that, after realizing maybe garbage man, I didn't have the biggest concept of money, but I probably realized maybe not easiest to take care of family with that income. Um, Ministry in our circle where we grew up, ministry was like, I don't know if it was said out loud, but it felt like a pressure from the community we were involved in, that the highest level of calling is to be in full time ministry. And so, and I also felt a lot of pressure from other people. Oh, I would get called. Oh, Pastor Joe, you're going to be a pastor someday. Be a pastor. So ministry was early on as a young person. I was desperate to go to a private, switch from public school to our private Christian school, because I knew ministry what I was supposed to do. But I also always thought I'd have what we'd call bivocational calling. I felt like ministry would be my identity of focus, but I'd probably have a side job. Because I did, as I was growing up, I was realizing, some of these ministers that work full time are not making a lot of money, clearly, especially in our smaller circle. We weren't in part of a mega church where they're bringing a lot of cash. Um, so pretty early on, I struggled with as a teen, not struggled with, but thought a lot as a teenager. I feel like ministry is what I'm supposed to do, but I'm probably gonna have to do some work on the side, and what's that look like? And so some of my first jobs were kind of geared that way. Like my very first paying job, well, I would do like handyman stuff and stuff as a teenager, help out. I'd work on my uncle's hog farm, make a little cash here and there. But my first job was in a bookstore at college, and it was just to help pay some bills while I was in Bible college. Then I went to work at the Bible college, cooking meals and doing everything. Quickly decided food service was not something I wanted to make a career out of. Did not enjoy that. Um, you remember growing up, we always lived in older houses that we'd remodel while we lived in them. It's a great learning experience. And so, so construction was kind of natural to me. So then I kind of transitioned from doing food service to working in a construction company that was part of the ministry we were involved in. We would help troubled young men who needed to get a foot up in life. They'd work on the construction crew. We'd mentor them and help them out, and then we built houses. And so that was kind of my first experience of like, okay, I'm building houses and construction, making money, but I'm also still doing ministry, which I feel. Um, then that transitioned into for a short period of time doing full time ministry, where I was on the road recruiting for the Bible college in a band. I played bass guitar in a band, and we would do youth camps and things. And the point was to try to recruit people to come to Bible college. And then that transitioned into moving to a place to live for several years, Heartland, which is a Heartland Children and Youth Homes, where I was employed. And that was at first I was doing construction with them and just part of the ministry, playing bass and doing, you know, volunteer work. But then I transitioned to a full time ministry role in a sense, and then I worked at it was a boarding school for troubled youth. We have I live here in Omaha, Nebraska. We have Boys Town here, which is famous. It's kind of like a miniature version of Boys Town. So I
Yeah.
worked with troubled youth, in the young men, 13 to 18-year-old boys. They're brought there by parents, or some were placed by estate placement. Most were placed by parents, and it was a boarding school. It was, you know, a lot of structure and a lot of church and private school, and trying to help these kids do well. In that process, so that was like my first to what we could think of a career. I'm working in this youth home. And I got to a supervisor position there, and felt kind of pull there being a supervisor. I was like, I think pastoral leadership stuff was kind of always in my head, but I always felt like, man, I just don't feel like I'm hitting my potential, or there's more here. Um, so I explored, well, maybe I want to be a counselor and actually get a degree and be able to actually be a professional, not just a lay person helping these kids out. So I started at that point. I started to go to school. I went to Liberty University, a Christian college, online. And the first couple of years, I was just going to be prerequisites, just getting the basic gen ed stuff out of the way. So after doing couple semesters of that, um, honestly, out of the blue, I don't remember the 7-year-old little boy that said I want to be a policeman. Our dad, he came to me and said that he had several doctor friends that they called them SWAT docs. They were hobby cops. So these doctors were fairly wealthy. They had very successful practices and had a lot of money. They wanted to help their local communities out. We live in a very rural area of Missouri where there's a lot of volunteer law enforcement, literally, that people just help out because it's a small town and they can't afford to pay for a lot of cops. So these doctors would buy all their own police equipment. They put themselves through a police academy to get certified, and then they'd help out their local sheriff's offices or police departments. So our dad wanted to do that and himself. And he came to me and said, I think you should go do this with me. I'm going to go to a night school to become a certified police officer. I think this is your next day. That's what he said. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. It's not really counselor. I mean, I like guns and I like, you know, I've been working with youth in kind of almost a corrections type setting, very structured. We were taught restraints to hold them when they're out of control, and got a lot of practice de-escalating through verbal process with kids, talking them down when they're elevated. So I was
Yeah.
like, oh, I could see doing law enforcement, but I still wasn't like super excited about it. It was still like a side thing of, I'm here to do this ministry to help these troubled youth. I could be a cop on the side to help the community out. And then if, we had problems, I'd have cop powers and arrest powers if I needed them. So, but I was going to need to take some time off from my regular schedule, and it was going to cost a lot of money to do this. And I was like, yeah, I'm not sure. Well, the CEO and pastor of the organization we worked for, Dad made the pitch to him. He said, hey, would you be willing to let Joe adjust his schedule a little bit to go to this police academy with me? Because it was like, I can't remember. I think it was a 2-hour drive from our house. And
Whoa.
yeah, it was nights and weekends for 9 months. So it was Tuesday and Thursday nights from like 5 to 10, and then all day Saturday, once a month, all day Sunday for 9 months. It was a pretty big commitment.
And it cost you
And
money.
yeah, it costs money. There's surprisingly, Missouri is like several states where a lot of officers in rural areas, they will raise money or get a loan and put themselves through police academy. And once they're certified, then they'll try to find a job. Uh, it's a hard way to do it. I fortunately here where I work now, I work for a larger department, Omaha, Nebraska. You can come in just the door, they hire you and they put you in the academy. But some rural areas in the country, they can't afford to do that. So some of those cops are literally paying their own way through police academy.
Wow.
So
Before they know if they're going to actually have a job in law enforcement? Okay.
yeah, in fact, in my dad and I's graduating class of the academy, and there's 17 of us, I think. I think only maybe 5 or 6 of us had jobs. The rest were just gonna try to find jobs afterwards. So he pitched it to the CEO. Pastor Charlie was his name. Great man. He's since passed on, and he thought it was a great idea. He said, "I'll give Joe time off. I'll buy all your equipment, and I'll scholarship you to go to the academy." So I was like, "Well, if I'm going to go for free and get all this
Uh-huh.
equipment, I'll try this out." So then going to this police academy is the Missouri Sheriff's Association Training Academy. We attended a campus in Mexico, Missouri at the Audrain County Sheriff's Office. Shout out Sheriff Matt Aller, good man. It was life changing. It was it was fun. And I still thought of it like, well, this is really cool. What a fun side gig this will be. Like, really enjoyed law enforcement. Not to brag, but it was a class of 17. But I was valedictorian. I was top shot and what they called honor graduate. So basically, I won all the awards, and so I was like the honor graduate. And I was like, man, I'd kind of take a liking to this. I think I could do this. Um, Transitioned back to we graduate. My dad and I went to the police academy together. We graduated together. It was a lot of fun. Very, very special time. Then I go back to just working full time in this youth home, but then I volunteer a few shifts a month for the sheriff's office. I would go ride with another deputy and we would just do police work. Not a
Totally
lot
volunteer?
happening. Totally volunteer. I did not get paid. They had some paid gigs. You could get paid for doing prisoner transports and you get paid for doing a court bailiff. But for the majority, like if I was going to just go ride with another deputy for 8 hour shift, that was all my free time just volunteering. There's a lot of that going on in rural areas of America. People don't understand. Like these guys are out there was risking their lives for free. So I like to tell a story about that. Law enforcement was very exciting to me. I thought it was something going to be definitely part of my life, but I was kind of thinking on the side. My first night, the Shelby County Sheriff's Office in Shelby County, Missouri. I went to ride with the deputy, um, and I show up and I introduce myself. And we're getting ready to leave, and the deputy tells the dispatchers, because the dispatch is in the basement of the courthouse. He says, "Hey, we're going to go to the county fair. If you need anything, call the sheriff. I think he's probably going to be there." And then he's like, "Wait a minute, Joe, do you have a cell phone?" I'm like, "Yeah, I have a cell phone." He's like, "Okay, if you need something, call Joe's cell phone." Dispatcher's like, "Yeah, we have his number. We'll call him if we need something." So we go get in the car, and I'm like, Why is dispatch going to call my cell phone if they need something?" He's like, "Oh, um, our radio antenna got hit by lightning a month ago, and we don't have police radios, and I just don't carry a cell phone." And so then I thought I was going to die. I was like, "This is how." And I was seriously like, "You've been working as a cop for a month without a cell
No
phone
phone.
or a police radio?" And he's like, "Yeah." I'm like, "What do you do?" He's like, "Not much, but you're here tonight. We'll have some fun."
Oh
Um,
my gosh.
and so then shout out to rural America law enforcement. So great guy, great department. My good buddy, Aaron Frederickson's now the sheriff in Shelby County, Missouri, done a great job there. But what I learned quickly is rural law enforcement is super dangerous, and you're alone. Like in our county, there'd be one deputy on. At 10 o'clock at night, there's one deputy for the whole county. And if you need something, you gotta wait for him to drive across the county. And if you get in a fight or something, you're on your own. I asked him the first night. I said, "What do we do when we need backup?" He said, "Well, if we need backup, they'll call the sheriff and wake up the sheriff and see if he can come out." He's like, "Or if we're anywhere close to a state trooper's house, they might call a state trooper and wake them up and see if they can come out." So literally, like if you get in a fight as a rural officer in some parts of America, they have to call and wake your backup up from a house.
Oh my
So,
gosh.
um, and more power to him. God bless him. But I'm now a young married man starting a family. The concept of my job is in exchange for finances was starting to become clear to me.
Yeah.
And I did not think I could
Kids will
support
do
my
that.
family on that. Yeah, couldn't support
On a
my family on
volunteer.
that.
I don't think you could support your family on a volunteer job
Um,
either.
no. And I was like, this is crazy. For one, I didn't feel like the volume of calls we were getting was enough for me to be learning. I didn't feel like I was learning enough. And I was like, this is really, really dangerous. And for the knowing even what the deputies were getting paid, not very much, and for the risk of their life, I'm like, this is wild. So it almost turned me off to law enforcement. But due to some personal life changes, uh, my wife at the time and I decided to completely relocate to a fresh start. And so we had friends and some family way out in Wyoming, Casper, Wyoming.
Way.
And so way out. Um, and so we felt like it was a thing to do to move to Casper. And I was like, I really like law enforcement. I think I'd like to do this full time due to the drama and stress in our family situation. I was kind of not turned off to ministry, but I was like, I think I just want to work a job and just be a normal guy and just try to get through things, get through life, just survive, just make some money, support my family. And so I applied to Casper, Wyoming Police Department, got hired. We moved out there and became a full time cop. And that was I'm just rambling on. If you have different questions, you want to interject.
Okay, yeah, let me back up some things because now there's going to be a kind of another pivot and I want to make sure I'm in the right. Well, first of all, um in my town they still ride on the back of the truck, those garbage men.
That's
For
awesome.
reals. What do they do in your town? They just have the arms on the truck and it
Yeah,
picks up the
automatic. Yeah, automatic arms.
interesting. And did you hear Josh Smith's episode?
Yes.
He also thought of being a garbage man when he was a kid. I think that's so interesting, you guys. And it reminds me that it makes me sad that I mean, it's a real service, and it, like you said,
Oh,
it
yeah.
doesn't pay very well, and it's just it's a shame. It's a shame that the some of the most essential jobs, people don't think they could make a family on it. You talked about as a kid helping around. We didn't have allowance. Mom and dad didn't really believe in that exchange transaction thing as kids, but we helped out around the house and they bought us clothes, whatever. You helped out around the house is an understatement because, as you said, you pretty much remodeled at least their like master suite at some point. You became like a total construction person. Um, and then I just want to tell this funny story that on the way home from yours and dad's graduation from police academy, I got a speeding ticket. Actually, I didn't get the ticket because of what I was coming home from. I think in your honor, he just
Oh,
gave me a warning. Yeah,
he
but
believes
I
you. Did you
always
have like a program or anything or what?
no, he just believed me. Yeah. It was
Wow.
very nice. Yeah.
Well, that's good. That was
I have some history with speeding a little bit, but we can talk about that later. And
no
then,
problem.
okay, so you have moved towns. Okay, where are you in your degree at this point? Had you gotten your bachelor's from
No, I
Liberty?
had not. I took a break to go to police academy because I didn't think I could do both at the same time. Because I was still working mostly full time hours, and then go to this night and weekend school, so I had no
My
time.
gosh.
Um, and so no. So then once I got back to, well, it was right before we moved. I think right before we moved, I started again because I realized, I think law enforcement is what I want to do. So now I'm instead of getting a counseling degree, I'm going to get a criminal justice degree. I'm sure it'll help me down the
Ah.
road. And so I switched my majors. At that point I didn't only had the general education classes anyway, so I declared a major of criminal justice and started taking those classes in conjunction with the same time I showed up out there. So
You and
um,
my husband have the same degree. I did not realize.
yeah. So it fit with the job. It honestly was not a difficult degree to get because a lot of the classes I was going through, I was practically doing every day on the job, and
Oh,
so
wow.
the theory of the class was I was applying it daily, so it wasn't some of it wasn't um, which will part of that will tie into me getting involved in teaching, which I know you want to ask about later. So then I got to my bachelor's in that department, Casper, Wyoming. You didn't like you could be chief of the bachelor's. There's not a lot of requirements. In fact, the one chief I worked for didn't have a degree at all. But I don't know, I felt like a pull. I didn't mind school. I hated school growing up. Did not like schoolwork. One of the reasons I didn't want to be a people would always ask me, "Your kid, well, "Oh, are you gonna be a doctor like your dad?" I was like, "No, he went to school for like 12 years. That's not terrible."
I can't
Not
believe you were
equating
so
that.
self-aware of that.
Yeah, I knew I didn't like school. So going back to school for college was hard, but when I could apply it to what I was doing, I was like, "Oh, this is gonna help me make more money by promoting. This is gonna help me be better at my job." Then it made sense, and it was fine. So then once finishing my bachelor's, I was like, "I'm gonna keep going," and I went and then I got a
Wow.
master's. So I
In
went ahead.
criminal justice also?
It's criminal justice public administration.
Okay.
So it's like it was about 60% upper level criminal justice classes and about 40% public administration classes. So public policy,
Yeah.
government administration, that type of thing. And a very applicable degree for what I was looking to do, which is stay in public service and government. So that's how that went.
Okay. Um, First of all, this is becoming a theme on this podcast that people don't like school. Then they find work they like and they want to get better at it or they want to be better equipped for it and they go back to school and then they like the school. So that's interesting and it's really making me think about the education system and how we just kind of keep put people on this academia track and they have no idea what they want out of it. But um what was my next question? It was about oh, let's okay, so you kind of explained a kid pops out of high school and they know they want to be a cop. Should their next step be?
I encourage people to get a college degree.
Okay.
The reason being you can't join the police department until you're 21, because
Oh,
you need to be able to carry a handgun. And a lot of departments, you actually purchase the handgun, you own it personally. So you have to be 21. So police departments just don't even hire till 21. Our department, like a lot of others, you can start at 20 as long as you're 21 by the time you graduate the academy, because our academy is 23 weeks. But so from high school to police academy, you got a 3 year window anyway. So I tell people, go ahead and just go to college and get your degree. It's going to help you understand the job. It's going to help you for specialty positions, promotions, which that's another thing I didn't realize till getting into law enforcement. To your point of like not finding a lot of satisfaction in work and what do I want to do? If you have that feeling in a larger department like mine, you can find a different specialty within the job that's 100% different than what you were doing before. You can have multiple careers within one career as in the law enforcement in a big department. It's very fascinating. So I encourage people, yeah, get the college degree, have that out of the way. It looks good for applications. It shows that you have work ethic and can complete tasks. And then you have 3 years before you get started anyway. So just get the degree out of the way and then apply.
what about in these rural areas where you're saying they have to pay to go to police academy? Can you not get into police academy around here until you're 20 or 21?
Yep, you be
Okay.
21.
Okay, so that age is across the board. And then okay, you described it different for your like in Omaha. If I want to go into police academy, I apply like I would for a job and I could get turned down.
Yes. So Omaha, like a lot of big departments, and even the other areas, departments here in the metro area of Omaha that don't have their own academies, they'll still sponsor you and pay for you to go to the state academy. But yeah, you apply, you do an interview process, use a physical test of some sort. Usually there's a written test, and then you do an interview process, and then they do a very thorough background investigation. And if you make it through all that, then yeah, they offer you the job. They'll hire you day one. They put you into training.
Okay. Okay. Okay, so I love how you talked about the kind of shift that you thought kind of I would be really full-time ministry, that would be my identity, but I'd have this side gig and that really shifted when you moved to Wyoming. So how do you feel about your role in law enforcement right now? Is it just it's an industry you like, it's a career you like, it's a calling, it's an identity? What is it?
Yes,
All the above. Is that what
all
you're
the
saying?
above. I definitely do believe law enforcement is a calling in that it is a very difficult job in a very difficult field. Very, very high stress, high risk, dangerous, dealing with difficult situations. So you have to have a strong drive and desire to do it. And I don't think just financial gain is enough motivation. mostly because most police departments don't pay very well.
Right.
Um, we're very fortunate here.
Uh,
We have a strong union, Omaha Police Officer Association, and so we have collective bargaining rights. We currently have a contract that guarantees that we are paid 5% higher than the next highest department anywhere in the state. So when another
Wow.
department gets a raise, we automatically get a raise right after. I don't know how long that will last, but the recruiting in law enforcement is really tough right now nationwide, and so we're feeling that as well. So it was something they're trying to do to help get people. So no, to do the job, you have to have a lot of grit and stick to itiveness. So I do feel like it's a calling in that sense. For me, about who's Joe Nickerson, the cop. I say I'm a cop because I feel like cop is a calling, but probably more than that, I feel like I think I'm a leader, and so I find fulfillment in law enforcement in that role, and in the niches I've gone into and I've promoted several times. I now train on leadership. I'm currently developing a leadership class for our department internally with the union. And that's really gets my gears going. And that was a different transitioning into full time job as a cop was it was a big change for me, but it was a bigger change from like my friends and even family. And not negative necessarily, but people were just shocked. They're like, "Wait, you're not going to be a pastor? Like we grew up, you're going to be pastor. You're Pastor Joe." Like I was like, "No, I'm a cop." And my good friend and pastor Justin Limmer, we had a very intense conversation one day, and he said, um, we're not going to get into the backstory of my ministry work, but right out of Bible college, I did some pretty intensive ministry. I was a ministry assistant, unpaid, just intern, but I traveled with the pastor and was involved in a lot of high profile church leadership transitions and meetings. And he's like, "You have all this pastoral training and like," he's like, "You're not just like a church leader, you're like special forces. Like you have how could you just leave all that to be a cop?" I said, "Well, maybe all that development and training wasn't to be a church pastor. Maybe it was just leadership training. Maybe I'm just supposed to be a leader and I can be a leader at the police department. I could be a leader at church, could be a leader in a Fortune 500 company, but maybe leadership is what I'm supposed to do." And right now, I feel really connected to my community and to my calling in law enforcement. Um, and in Casper is when that really hit home, working full time as a police officer. And the biggest transition for me was that specialty thing within law enforcement. So small departments, you don't get a lot of specialty. So Shelby County, Missouri, loved working there, but those deputies, they're the forensic technicians, they're the detectives, they're the special investigators. You get a case, it's your case, you do everything because they just don't have the staff. That's how it is. Here in Omaha, we're a large department. We're over 900 officers sworn, another couple hundred civilian staff. So we're over 1,100, 1,200 employees. So we have a lot of specialization. Casper PD was smaller, about 100 officers, but still a medium to large department. So there were specialties. So you had detectives, you had school resource officers, specialty positions. One of those specialty positions was um, crime prevention / public information officer. They rolled those two jobs into one. So I got asked to do that job due to my people skills, and I like to talk to people. And so they said, "Hey, do you want to do this job?" I at the time was on the street. I really enjoyed street work, just taking radio calls, showing up. You never know what you're going to get. It's always crazy and exciting, and you got to problem solve. And a lot of adrenaline rush, and I enjoyed that. So doing the crime prevention / public information officer, working with the press and the media and talking to senior citizen groups did not seem appealing to me, but I'm also a bit of a yes man. And so when the boss said,
Where does
"Hey,"
that come from?
I don't know. So the boss is like, "Hey, would you do this?" I'm like, sure, I'll give it a shot. Well, absolutely loved it. A lot of
Oh my
public
God.
speaking, working with the media, doing press interviews, a lot of community gatherings where I picked up a piece that I had been missing about there's a pretty big gap between public understanding and law enforcement.
Yeah.
And so in the extremes, the public doesn't understand why law enforcement's doing, and so they're very critical and they don't want to talk to them and they just want to be mad at them. That can be just as bad for law enforcement. Well, the citizens don't understand us, they don't know what we're doing, they just don't get it. Well, how about we actually talk and we share each other's concerns and figure this out? So in that role, I got a real opportunity to be a liaison between the police department and the community. I go to community meetings and I would do a law enforcement safety presentation, and they'd be like, "Oh, that's why you do that? Oh, I never knew that." Likewise, they'd say, hey, here's some of our concerns. So I could take that back to my bosses and said, hey, I met with this community group. They have these concerns. These are things they're seeing. And then the police department would be like, oh, that's interesting. Okay, we can work with that. And that connection piece was just super fun for me. Loved that. And so that's where I felt like, yeah, I think this is what I'm supposed to do. Like, I feel like I am more salt and light in the community in this role than I would be pastoring a church of 50 people down the road. I feel like my sphere of influence was actually bigger in the community. I had a lot more contacts and connections. When I moved from, and what really sealed that for me, transitioning, moving forward after a few years in Wyoming, things did not work out in personal life. And so I had a major life transition in up here in Omaha to be closer to family. And I had the struggle of, okay, um, do I just start fresh completely and do something different? Do I go into, I have a master's degree. Do I go into education? Do I do some other job? And I was like, I love the cop thing. And here's another thing people don't know. When you transfer from departments in the military, as you transfer, you keep your rank, you keep your job, you just go to a different base or whatever, a different assignment. Police departments are all completely unique. So when you go from one to another, you start from scratch.
Oh gosh.
So,
In the
I,
academy?
yes.
Oh,
So we have now a
I
lateral
forgot that.
program that's a shorter academy for officers with experience. But when I came to Omaha, I came in just like a brand new 21-year-old with no experience. Had to do the full 23-week academy. Had to get pepper sprayed again. Had to, we have a boot style
No.
camp where they yell at you and you're doing the push-ups and sit-ups and running. And
How old were
yeah,
you?
I was 36.
Oh boy.
I wasn't the
Did you have
oldest
to
in the
get
class,
tased?
but I didn't have to get tased again, but pepper sprayed, which is worse in my opinion.
Oh.
So, but I knew one, as a now mature adult, going through some family personal life transitions, which includes divorce and child support and things where money is very important now. I need to be making good conscious decisions, but also when I'm planning for my future, Omaha had a good pension system. So I was already thinking about, okay, how do I stay stable after the job? Because am I going to be able to personally invest? Omaha PD, like a lot of departments, has a defined pension system where my retirement is based on my percentage of salaries on my years of service. Has nothing to do with investments, or it's not a 401k, or if the market's down, I lose money. It's set by my salary when I retire. So that's a huge benefit to agencies that have it. There's very few businesses and jobs that have defined pensions like that. So that was a selling point, because let's be practical. You need the money to survive and you need money for
Mm-hmm.
longevity. And so I decided law enforcement was it. I was willing to go through the starting from scratch and build my way back up, because I had tasted and experienced the fruits of how I felt so connected with the community and law enforcement doing that role. I felt like I could get there again. And so that's what I did.
Man, I don't usually ask about money on this show. It's more about living and work, but how did you support yourself through academy?
I ran up some credit card debt.
Yeah. You
And
just like the rural days again, pay for it yourself.
yep, ran up
Yeah.
some credit card debt. Lived very frugally. Um, I got some help from some family support to help through. For 1 year, you had charity on earlier. I lived with Charity and Ryan for a year.
Oh,
Uh,
that's right.
they gave me very affordable rent, which is very kind, and it also allowed me to, since I was working night shifts, and so I couldn't get joint custody of my kids because of nights. But living with aunt and uncle, they could stay all night with aunt and uncle while I was at work. So
Uh,
then I was able to get joint custody of my kids, which is a significant financial decrease, as well as just more time with my kids. So that was a huge shout out to Ryan Charity for that. That was life changing. Um, yeah. So it was tough.
okay.
So I am still today working hard to get financially stable from
Oh
personal
my
life
gosh.
issues. So yeah,
Uh, um, so that first role with the public was in Casper?
that was in Casper.
I
Yeah.
didn't remember that. Okay, so you've had some pretty varied jobs, like you said, being in law enforcement, and there's lots of different ways to do it. You've done regular shift work at night. You did the public thing. I thought you did that in Omaha too. Did you not?
I did. Yeah.
You did.
So,
Okay.
and I kind of thought I would do that kind of for a while in Omaha. Um, I'll be honest, I was very fortunate timing wise on promotions here at my current job in Omaha. I envisioned myself working hard to get into PIO, Public Information Officer, because I knew I could succeed at that. I knew I enjoyed it. If you want to touch on Gallup's strengths, I have communication in my top 5, and I enjoy that. So I knew it would be very fulfilling for me, and I knew it was a strength of mine. Um, so that's kind of what I envisioned. I was fortunate in that I have promoted fast both times, both to sergeant and lieutenant here in Omaha, but I still have bounced around in various jobs. It's just, I always tell people if they start to get burnt out somewhere, I'm like, look at going into a specialty unit or a different unit because it's a different world. It's like going into a different job. You're still a cop. You're still getting the same pay and the same pension, sometimes a little more pay because specialties have bonuses and things, or specialty bonuses, but it's a different job and a fresh perspective. It's a really good way to be able to make it through a career at one place and have a pension. So
Um, uh, so Felicity talked about on her episode the skills you learned in any job can transfer and might actually get you the jobs you like more. A long time ago in this conversation, you talked about how you learned to de-escalate with kids, and you have done training, special training. You're going to have to help me with words and all that, but you're a negotiator, right? Is that the word? Is
yes,
that part of always like it's an extracurricular within your work, or it's a role you played? I don't remember.
it's an extra duty. I did that in Wyoming. I got that in Wyoming and enjoyed it. It was an extra duty there as well. So basically, you have SWAT teams, Special Weapons and Tactics. Here we call it ERU, Emergency Response Unit, but they're the cool operators, right? The cool dudes. Um, some of them, God bless them, are not the best communicators. They have really good tactics, and they just don't want to be communicators. They want to do the tactics and the high profile stuff. But a lot of times in these situations, you end up with what's called barricades, where there's somebody in a house. It's probably not safe to just rush in and get them. So we try to take some time and talk them out safely. And that's where negotiators come in. And so I got certified as a negotiator in Wyoming and really enjoyed that. Again, the communication piece. I enjoy talking to people. I enjoy listening to people, building rapport. And then when it goes well, hey, man, let's just come out and just do this peacefully. And that works. It doesn't always work, but it feels great when it does. So I knew I wanted to do that as well as PIO, and I got into both of those here. So my path here, I come in here. They knew I was lateral. They knew I had prior experience, and my very first FTO, field training officer. So you go to the academy in our department. You go 23 weeks academy, then you graduate, and you have to do 15 weeks where you ride with another officer and get graded every day on how you're doing, and you have to
Ugh,
pass that. Yeah,
great.
you have to pass that to then be a cop on your own. So my very first trainer had worked in the PIO office and knew the current PIO commander. When he found out I have that experience, he introduced me right away, like a few weeks into my training. Also ended up that because of that various thing, I ended up going to a luncheon with that PIO commander and the chief of police. There's a few hundred people in our department who've never even met the chief, and I got to meet him just a few weeks into my career.
Oh
And
my
so
gosh.
huge benefit, huge, very exciting. Name recognition and face recognition, it means something. It's sometimes not what you know, it's who you know. So then later on, when I applied to PIO, he had met me, he'd had a conversation with me, so he knew who I was. So he felt comfortable, like, yeah, we'll give him a shot at the PIO office. So uniform patrol, because of my kid's schedule, we'd work 8s in Omaha. So you work either day shift, afternoon shift, or overnight shift. I always worked overnights on the road because I didn't like missing kid activities in the evening. So I could be home with the kids, put the kids in bed, then go to work overnight, be back to take them to school in the morning, then sleep during the day while they're in school, get up, pick them back up after school, and do that kind of thing on my weeks. Uh, but I got into that negotiator role. I applied and was accepted as a negotiator while on the street. So I would work the street, but then the radio would say, hey, there's a barricade at this address. They're calling for a negotiator. And I would go respond to that and then get the phone out, starting the negotiations. Really enjoyed that. And then promoted to sergeant, still got to do that. And now currently I'm the lieutenant. I'm actually the commander of all the negotiators now. So I
Oh
supervise the
my
team.
gosh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. I don't get to be on the phone as much because I'm supervising and directing and liaisoning with the SWAT commander. But I'm still very much a part of the team. And I was just on a bridge with a jumper a few weeks ago because I was the closest one to respond. I was the second one there. So sometimes I still get in on the action part of it, but usually I'm directing and guiding and facilitating. But yeah,
God, I shouldn't. I'll cut this if the answer is not what I think, but that one ended successfully, right?
it did.
Okay. No jump.
Ironically, though, it was a strike to my ego because majority of time in my law enforcement history, if I show up in a call with another officer and we're getting into a banter with the person, suspect, subject, consumer, whoever it may be, almost always I end up being a good cop. And they key in on the other person as they don't like them, but they like me, and we play that off. And then I become their friend to build rapport and get what we need to get. Almost always. I think so much it went to my head. On this particular call, this gentleman, this bridge, hated me. And he also
On
was,
site?
yes, he had a thing with males. The first officer was a female. The first negotiator was a female. He was interacting with her. I show up, he's already mad at me. And then it got complicated because we got a hold of some family and found out he was diagnosed schizophrenic. And he would just yell things at me. And like, I'm not 31, I'm 29. I'm like, I didn't say anything. Finally, the negotiator with me, she's like, hey, LT, I think he's hearing voices and he thinks it's you. I'm like, oh. And so finally he says, if you leave, I'll come down. So I said, okay.
Oh
So I
my
swapped out. I
gosh.
swapped out with the female officer as a backup. And I told the female officer, hey, just follow her lead. I'm going to go get out of here. And I was gone for about a minute and a half, and he came down. So, and I'd been there for like an hour and a half. So if I'd have known me leaving would have got him down, I would have left the hour before. But
There's a
so it worked.
really great Scarecrow and Mrs. King episode where they play good cop, bad cop, and
Oh,
she
that's funny.
says she's going to be the bad cop. Do you know that show at all? It's
I
so
know
old.
skiing. Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so she's like the nicest person in the world, but she's going to be the bad cop. They do it for like 2 seconds. They walk out of the room. She's like, "So I should be good cop, right?" He's like, "Yeah, yeah." Um, do you have connection? Is that one of the strengths?
Connectedness, yes.
Connectedness. Do you have that one in your top
Yeah,
5?
I have my top 5 are context, harmony, communication, connectedness, arranger.
Whoa, I don't even know some of those. That's
Yep. So I'm a Gallup strengths coach. If we want to geek out and Gallup for a while, our department, which is cool, we partner with Gallup, and so
really
yep. So I got certified through my department as a Gallup strengths coach. Every incoming academy class we do, I run the whole class through their assessment, get them all through their assessment, so we know their strengths, and then from time to time, team leaders will reach out to me. They're some type of supervisor, sergeant, lieutenant, one of the civilian supervisors, and they'll say, hey, can you give me my team grid? I want to see my whole team in a grid. And then sometimes I'll do team coaching sessions where I'll go in and coach with the team we'll do some strengths building exercises, and then some one-on-one coaching as well. People interested in specialty positions or promotions are like, how do I maximize who I am? We'll do a coaching session to help them find success based on their talents, strengths. So context is usually history. A lot of history buffs have context. For me, where context shows up is to get to know you. I want to know where you came from. So
really.
if I know your story, then I feel connected to you. That's how context works for me, I think that plays into why I've had success as a negotiator as well. I want to hear your story. Yeah, tell me about it. I want to hear all about it. Sometimes it can be annoying on like radio calls because I partnered with people who did not have context. So like we'd show up and there'd be a couple, one has bloody knuckles, one has a black eye. And my partner would be like, okay, we're going to put the one with the bloody knuckles in handcuffs. And I'll be like, when did you first meet? And because I want to hear.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, that's context. Harmony is next. Harmony is
Yeah,
just
harmony.
like it sounds. Harmony is you want people to get along. And I want
Oh
people to
my
get along.
gosh. Peacemaker.
Yes. And usually people with harmony avoid conflict. And sometimes I do that in personal life. I don't want to deal with fighting kids, or I don't want to have the argument with my spouse because I just whatever. But for law enforcement, you can't really avoid conflict. It's kind of essential to the job. Um, But what I've learned is that for me, I am more than willing to dive into that conflict because I want the harmony on the backside. I know once we deal with this, we're going to have peace afterwards. So let's get it over with and get to that peaceful spot. So that's how my harmony. And then also that liaison piece. I realize in hindsight, that's why I enjoyed being the community liaison in Casper, because I was
Mm-hmm.
harmonizing between the community and the department. And I find myself doing that a lot now. My current role, I do a lot of that. I'm the internal affairs commander as well currently. And
Oh
so
boy. Oh yeah.
I do a lot of harmonizing with police management and the Police Officers Association or union, who are sometimes at odds, and I tend to be stuck in the middle, being a peacemaker and working through that. Um, yeah, context harmony communication is pretty self-explanatory. I enjoy communicating. I need communication to feel fulfilled. Um, Connectedness is, I think, in systems. It's probably also why I'm okay in internal affairs, is I'm a little more biased towards the department and management, because I think about not just officer, what you're doing, how that's affecting you right now on this call, but how is that affecting all of us? How is it affecting the department? How is it affecting the community? I think that way. That's how connectedness is. Everything you do affects everyone else, and we're all connected somehow. Versus there's also a strength called individualization, where you're better at one-on-one focusing in. I think more in systems and group, I guess. And then arranger goes along with that as well.
Yeah, I
I can
don't know
look at
that one.
a ranger is, you can look at a group and you're good at knowing who fits where. And so
Oh.
like team development and putting people in the right spots, arranging things so they function well.
Oh yeah. So I'm gonna have you back sometime with your really wide open schedule, and you should. Can you like Clifton Strengths me? Like I already know my if unless you want to redo it, but I don't really know what to do with it. What to do with them? Like I have
Yeah, we could totally do
maximizer.
it. Yeah, we could do a quick some strengths exercises and help you. The
Okay,
biggest
cool.
thing when I tell people about Clifton Strengths, it's like several. There's lots of different personality tests, and in law enforcement, a lot of trainings they do DISC.
Yeah.
We have people do Enneagram. There's different ones like that. Gallup Clifton Strength Finder, they score you into 34 themes, and I just share the top 5. But you can do all 34 if you want. But basically, it's showing what you're the best at. And the idea, Don Clifton had this idea: what if, to help people find success, we had them focus on what they're good at, not what they're bad at? The theory being, you have some skills you can really do well, and some you don't do so well. And you want to improve. You want to get a promotion. You want to just have more success at work. You want to have better sales, better people skills, whatever. So a lot of people think, well, I need to work on these things I'm not good at and make them better.
Yeah.
But if you put all your energy into this and you get this a little higher, what happens to skills you're actually good at? They're going to actually decrease because you're not using them. So what you end up is you end up very mediocre by
Oh
working
my
on
gosh.
your weaknesses. You should work on developing weaknesses, and there's things you should have discipline and work on. But if instead you recognize, what am I naturally good at? What just comes to me? In my case, communication is one of my biggest strengths. I am naturally good at communication. I'm going to find a way to leverage that to then find success.
This is what I absolutely loathe about employee evaluations. When they are compare it's you against your job description. And so where are you weak? In your job description, let's get you better at it. And I think that's such a waste. It should be, what are your strengths? How can we shift your job description
Yeah.
to, and then pass off the things you're not great at to the person who is, and a very connected, it should all be connected. An employee
Yeah.
evaluation should not be this individual thing, and I just really, really hate them. But I'm not a W-2 employee at the moment, so I'm not actually complaining about my workplace when I say that. I want to ask about the do I the I like to ask people, were you ever told what you should be? And you've already told us you were told that a lot.
Yep.
How hard would you say you had to fight against that? And are you still? Do you feel really settled? Or do you still worry about bumping into someone who's going to challenge that?
I feel settled now just because of complete life changes. I Coming to Omaha was a reset and start over. New church community. Um, So a lot of strangers. So they only know me as Joe, the cop, who also plays bass at church. They don't know me as Joe, who was supposed to be a pastor and didn't fulfill his calling, and now he's just a lowly cop on the, and I don't know, honestly. I still have a lot of friends and family from the past that some of them had said those things to me. I don't know what they feel or think now, but I'm completely secure. I know I'm very content and happy and feel fulfilled in what I'm doing, and I feel that's what I'm supposed to do. I do think I grew up thinking you have to find this one finite calling like a railroad track, and if you get off it, your life's ruined. You got to stay on the track, and that was a lot of anxiety and pressure for me to figure that out. I now, in hindsight, think there's probably a half a dozen things you could do in your life that fulfill your calling on who you are, and you could be fulfilled and happy. But I definitely think for me, law enforcement is definitely and I very much appreciate the financial security piece of having a solid, steady paycheck. I do not have an entrepreneurial bone in my body. That scares the bejesus out of me. I like a steady paycheck. I like the idea of a set pension, so I know I have security in my future when I retire. So it just goes hand in hand for me.
So you believe uh, being in law enforcement is a calling. Do you believe everyone has a calling that's that specific?
I don't think so. Um,
Okay.
and sometimes I envy people who don't feel that way. Um, I my wife and I got in tonight because I was getting calls from another agency. I was getting a call from our agency, and I felt like I need to sort those problems out rather than just be present with my kids at dinner time. And so some that draw, I wish I was better at letting go. I've worked with people who had. I worked with a great guy in PIO. He was a great PIO, but when he was off, he was off. And he says he has, some people have FOMO, and I'm more of a FOMO guy. What am I missing out on? Fear of missing out. He's like, I believe firmly in JOMO. And I'm like, well, what is that? He's like, I have the joy of missing out.
Oh, yes, I have heard that. I
He,
forgot I'd heard it.
Mike Pekka, love him to death. He has a like quarter acre pollinator garden in his front yard that he planted with native Nebraska plants himself.
Oh my
And
gosh.
it's been featured in magazines. And um, the key is he only has to mow like half his yard now, but he also has a pollinator garden, so it's great for the environment for pollinators, birds and bees and all that. And he said, I'll be sitting in my garden and I'll hear a police car go by, lights and sirens on the interstate, and I'll think, I don't need to know what that's about.
What would you do?
I'm like, what's going on? I'm
Yeah.
the opposite. So
Would you pick up the call? Would you pick up a phone and actually like check in?
I have sometimes. The longer you're in the job, it's easier to let go. But then also, I aspire to more higher leadership, and the more leadership you have, the more you are involved in things and get notifications like what's happening this evening. So there's part of me that like I wish I didn't feel like so much called to it because then I was sometimes not as present as I should be for my family. Um, I had another friend. I did not understand this in Wyoming. Good friend grew up with him. He ended up moving to Wyoming as well, a different time period, but we lived there at the same time. And he worked for a machinery company, and he literally like got parts off a shelf, put them in a box, and shipped them off to somebody. And good job, good paying job, and very stable company. But I just could not fathom, like I didn't see any fulfillment in that. And I remember asking him one time, like, how do you just go to work and just like ship stuff? And he's like, well, because I get paid to do it, and then I come home and spend time with my family, and I go camping on the weekend, and I go have fun, and I don't think about work. He's like, I just work a job so I can have time with my family. I'm like, wow. And I think there's a very special piece to that. I think he would identify. I don't think he'd identify himself as a parts shipper. I think he'd identify himself as a husband and a father who likes spending time outdoor and going on hikes with the kids. But it takes money to do that. And so sometimes I wish I was more that way because I do feel I get very invested in, when I prepare for promotions, the testing process to get promoted is pretty rigorous, and I want it very bad, and I'm very invested. So, like when I promoted to sergeant, since communication is how I operate, to practice for part of the process, I would practice like giving a speech. Basically, you present to a panel on some issues. They give you some issues, you sort through them, make some notes, and then you present how you'd handle it. And it's called an assessment center. Well, so for me, communication, I do best just doing run throughs. I process it out loud. And so I needed to do a lot of those to feel like I was confident. So it was for 2 months, every night after the kids went to bed till 10 or 11 or midnight, I just did that at the kitchen table for 2 months every night. And so, not when that was over, Raven, my wife, was like, "Can we watch a show now that this is over?" Because it was, but I was just so driven and so I get wrapped up in it. So yeah, I do think it's a calling. Some are better at than others, about being able to let go when you're not on duty. And sometimes I wish I was more that way. I'm actually working to be better about that, by being present and not sucked into the job at home. But
Decentering work. So what is your goal?
my goal is to raise healthy kids who are successful. I put a little pressure on my kids to be successful because I felt like I caught on to you have to make decent finances to be secure late in life.
Yeah, me
And
too.
so I've pushed my kids to find successful, stable careers earlier. Um, but I want to see my kids succeed. That's like a base goal. I have a lot of kids. I have 6 kids. So it's a lofty goal. They're probably not going to all make it, but um, hopefully half to 3/4 anyway. But that's I want my kids to be healthy. I want to live the rest of my life with my wife Raven and enjoy that. And I want to enjoy retirement. I want to do better enjoying life now, because of, not to play the victim mindset, because of some of my decisions and some personal issues early on. I still like I'm still digging out of financial instability. I'm getting to a good place, and so I want to get there so that I can enjoy the now and not just wait till retirement. Because I'm going to be old when I retire from OPD. I started here late, so a
Okay.
lot of things, if you can retire full pension at our department is 30 years. So if you got hired at 21, at 51, you could retire with 75% of your highest salary as a pension for the rest of your life. That's pretty good at 51, because then you could you have time to go get a whole second career if you want, and
True.
be making almost double money and be very secure. I missed that window. I started too late here due to life decisions. So I want to get to the place now, and I work too hard at times now to dig out of my hole faster so that I can get that stability now and enjoy it now before retirement. But yeah, I want to enjoy life with my family. I want to see my kids succeed, and I want to make a difference. Significance is not super high for me, but I do feel that, like, I want a legacy. I want to be remembered well. I want to leave the department better than I found it. In particular, what drives me right now is leadership development. We don't have much formal leadership development in our department. You have to go to outside places to find classes and trainings. And so my career goal here is that when I leave this department, I will have helped move that needle to more leadership development internally within the department.
So when the day after you retire, what will your calling be then? Or will you be, oh, now I'm one of those people who just can be at peace because I don't really have one?
Yeah, I can finally enjoy my pollinator garden. And
Yeah.
uh, Raven did plant a pollinator garden. It's really nice.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, we have milk. We do get monarch butterflies every year now that hatch out of our milkweed plant. It's
I
great.
love butterflies.
Yes, one, to enjoy time. I will be older when I retire, so I'm going to want to enjoy those last years, not fast paced. But I think also I will have at that point decades of law enforcement / government leadership experience that I feel like I'm going to want to share. And so I think that won't mandate
Yeah.
internally won't change. So I don't know what it looks like practically. Probably some type of lecturing or training classes. There's several organizations that do good training where the guys retire and they go on a lecture circuit basically and teach classes for leadership development. So probably something like that part time. And
Okay.
it would be a way to travel to go see different places on somebody else's dime. So
So you're really never gonna leave it, the calling
probably, I
to law
don't think
enforcement.
so. Yeah,
We didn't even talk about that. You are a teacher, aren't you?
I am. I'm an adjunct professor for Bellevue University, which is a community here. I've only taught one class so far. when I got hired, they were looking for a day shift guy, and I was just about to get a day shift job, so it went to another guy, which is fine. But they said, "Hey, let's put you on the roster. You can teach an online class sometime, get some experience." So I taught an online basic criminal justice and courts class, but it was a lot of fun. And that was not loving school. I never really thought I liked teaching, but again, somewhere you find school that benefits you personally and professionally. It's like, oh, I can understand why I'm doing this. I felt the same about teaching. I'm certified to teach ethics. I teach ethics to our supervisors. So when supervisors get promoted, they have a basic class for their both sergeants and lieutenants. I teach them ethics. I also do Gallup strengths with them. And now my current role is internal affairs. I do an internal affairs presentation, which is now rolled into this leadership development training I'm going to do with the union on coaching and mentoring officers as a supervisor. And so that I enjoy because I enjoy the subject matter. It fulfills me, and so I've worked on the teaching aspect of that. And for the college stuff, for me as already being a cop going through college, I could tell which of my professors had done the job and which were just working off of theory. And no offense to the theory people, academia is important and research is very important. But there's a lot of people who've just gone to school and learned how to do research, gotten degrees and titles, and then now teach, which is fine. But then you have guys who clearly were on the job for a whole career and saw dark things and experienced it, and then come in and teach a class, and there's a different presentation, there's a different understanding of material. And so honestly, I felt like that's something I could do is give back. If I can help teach these criminal justice classes, not just from an academia standpoint, but also from lived experience, I think that'd make a difference for my students.
I love that. I'm going to ask a question I kind of had at the beginning, and you sort of answered it. You kind of went there a little bit. I wonder what misunderstandings you feel that the public has about law enforcement. Also, whichever way you want to go, but I'm wondering if people who might want to go into law enforcement also have misunderstandings you would be interested in dispelling.
Yeah, that's a pretty loaded question.
I know.
And I will open this conversation by saying that I am a white Protestant heterosexual male, so I'm the least discriminated class going. So I do not have the lived experience of a lot of people, particularly minorities and those who are persecuted against in our country. Um, I think the biggest misconception is, and you could go over a range of topics, but it's just the reason we believe in community policing is because it's hard to be mad at someone that you know and get along with. And like, so if you go sit down with me and have coffee and we talk about life and our kids and sports our kids are in, and that both play bass guitar, it's hard to see me as a badge and a uniform, but you see Joe. And so we do a lot of that to help the community understand, hey, we're not just Gustapos out, we're enforcing laws. We care about our community. This is the way we care for it. We enforce these laws and we keep people safe. And sometimes that means harsh things like taking people to jail when they break laws, but that's how we do our part. Vice versa, cops can become very jaded because you're only dealing with negative parts of society.
I was going to ask about that.
Because you're only dealing with good people on really bad days, and then you're dealing with just bad people. And so I think it's very easy for law enforcement, especially without good support systems, especially not without proactive physical and mental and psychological health monitoring, can get very jaded and cynical, and then that leads to negative interactions. A great book, if you're interested in law enforcement, is by Dr. Gil Martin, is Emotional Survival for Law Enforcement. And he talks about taking those proactive steps to be healthy so you don't get sick and die of a heart attack from the stress, and then also so you don't get jaded and make really bad decisions because you're angry and jaded. So it's a twofold street. The community just needs to understand that cops are real people that just care about the community and want to help, and then cops need to understand that not everybody's bad, and that a lot of it just is communication. Sometimes if you'll just I would tell my recruits when I was a field training officer, I said, I will take 10 more minutes to talk someone into handcuffs than to fight them into handcuffs. So some people are like, I've told you you're going to jail. If you don't submit, we're gonna go to the ground and I'm gonna wrestle you in a position to handcuff you, which is legal and fine and sometimes necessary. But you can also try to reason and explain and humanize and build some rapport and then get them to comply. And I was definitely always more that way. You can't always. I've had to fight a lot of people because sometimes people just don't listen. But when it comes to police community relations, to me, that's the biggest separator. And there's a lot of dynamics. There's racial dynamics, financial dynamics, just different cultures. Omaha is a very, very, very wide variety of cultures. Here in Omaha, we have a lot of refugees from all over the world. So we get a lot of different cultural influences. And so there's a lot of just unknowns and misunderstandings from culture to culture. And how in our refugee populations, how law enforcement was in their country is they're going to bring obviously that bias with them, and that's what they're expecting.
Of course.
So you have to work through and overcome that. So
Oof.
it's just a lot of get to know things. It's like somebody at work. You have somebody at work you don't know very well, but they drive you nuts. You can't stand
Yeah.
them. If you make a concerted effort to spend time with them and humanize them and learn from them, truly be empathetic, try to walk in their shoes, try to understand where they're coming from. It's hard to not like them. You may not, but you're not going to feel the same. So police community relations to me is just that, getting people to sit down at the table, talk together, spend time together, and like, oh, okay, yeah, I get it. That's another reason I like Gallup strengths, not only for the positives of how do I find my strengths, but you also recognize why people are so different. A common example is activator is just like it sounds. We need to go buy new curtains. Okay, let's go. Home Depot's open for 2 more hours. Let's go pick some curtains. The spouse may be a deliberator. A deliberator likes to take a lot of time and gather a lot of information before making decisions. So they're like, no, we can't go to Home Depot tonight. I need to read 5 Better Homes and Garden magazines. I need to read 7 blogs. And then I need to do 4 color palettes on the wall, and they'll make a decision. So spouses, if you have an activator and a deliberator, are often at odds on decision making because one just wants to go and one wants all the information. The one that wants to go says you're wasting time and being too picky. The one that wants to deliberate says you're just making brash decisions we're going to regret later. That can lead to a lot of conflict. Well, if you sit down and realize, I'm an activator, I like to make quick decisions. Oh, I'm a deliberator, I need a lot of information. Okay, we understand that now by each other. Neither one of us is wrong or right. We're just
Right.
different in how we process and how our minds work. Now we can try to work together consciously and proactively to manage that and find peace rather than just be mad. So that works in couples, that works in work relationships. A lot of work conflict is that just very different. We would describe, oh, he just has a different personality. Well, if you actually break that personality down and can describe it quantifiably of, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
um, he is input, and a person with strong input needs a lot of information before they'll move on anything. So you can't just pitch my idea. You're gonna have to bring him research studies, bring him data, bring him examples, let him digest all that, have a second follow-up conversation after the digesting of data, and then you'll get somewhere. Just recognizing things about that people can make things a lot smoother.
Yeah, definitely.
All that plays into police community relations. A lot of it's misunderstanding. And police, unfortunately, a lot of police are not good at explaining. They know what they know. Well, this is how it works. This is the law. Well, I didn't know that's the law. You might have to explain it. Well, this is the statute number. This is where you can find it. You can research it. And so it's a two-way street. It takes both of us being willing to come together. And we have a great program in Omaha, a restorative justice program. If you're arrested for a minor offense, let's say disorderly conduct, you're intoxicated, you yelling and cursing and making a fool. You didn't like punch anybody, so no assault charges, but you're out of control, causing problems. So the police arrest you to quit causing problems for everyone, and they charge you with disorderly conduct. That charge can then go before the city prosecutor, and if you request it or they offer it, you can go through a restorative justice program where they'll offer that the officer that arrested you, and they can either say yes or they can say, "I'd rather have a surrogate." So either the officer that arrested you or a surrogate officer goes through a 4-hour class with you and other people in the same situation, and you talk about emotions and feelings and decision
Wow.
making. Then you sit face to face together and you say, I was mad you arrested me because I was just drunk having a good time. And the cop says, you were swinging a flower pot around and almost hit people, and people were scared. For the safety of the public, I had to arrest you. Oh, now we have both perspectives and we talk about it and we
Oh
can
my
come to a
gosh.
peaceful consensus. And then that's a diversion program where if you're willing to go through that program, they'll wipe away the charge. So
That's
it helps.
amazing.
Yeah, it's a great program. It helps people out with minor offenses, maybe first time offense. They just did, and it's not going to be on the record the rest of their life. And then it helps humanize officers as well because they get that face to face contact. And the officer explains, I'm not just some jerk out there arresting people. Like, you almost hit these other people. You were drunk and didn't realize that. I had no choice. I had to take you into custody. And they're like, oh, okay. So you're not a jerk. You're just doing your job, trying to help other people. You're right. I was pretty drunk. I'm sorry. And if there was more of that community wide all the time, we'd be in a better place. There's also Omaha. Like, listen, you got to put join OPD up. That's a
Okay.
link for our recruiting. We are hiring. We need more officers. So come work for our great department. We have a thing.
JoinOPD.com.
Yep, just join
Okay.
opd.com. We also have a group called Omaha 360. They meet every week. It's community activists, community groups, and law enforcement. They have a meeting. Law enforcement talks about recent violent crime and concerns, answers questions. Then the community members say, okay, what can we do to help? What services can we provide that could help prevent some of this violence or stop retaliations? They've been doing that for several years, and we believe our community partnerships in Omaha contribute highly to our proud record of currently this year in 2026. We have the lowest crime rate of any city over 500,000 population in America. So,
That's
yeah.
amazing. I love that. Is
Yeah.
Omaha 360 a link? Is there a link for that?
Um, you can find Omaha 360. If you just Google it, Omaha 360, you'll find it. Some other
Okay.
cities have picked up the model. Kansas City is doing it now. New Orleans is doing it. A few other
Cool.
cities have picked it up. It's run through the Empowerment Network. So if you do Omaha Empowerment Network, you can find it as well. Great organization. And it's that piece I'm talking about. It's like, hey, cops are out here arresting people. Community members want safe communities. How about we work together and find out how we can support each other? Because we're just cops. We just mostly arrest people. A lot of these problems are not just a crime problem. It's a support program. It's getting kids into activities to keep them out of gangs. It's all kinds of positive stuff that we need to work together on. So I just love that stuff. That speaks to my harmony big time.
Totally. So you probably couldn't do it with your 7-year-old self, but maybe a little older. Could you look back now and say, I can see this in you?
Yeah, I
The
definitely,
things you need to be what
yes.
you are today.
Yeah, honestly, pastoral work and law enforcement are very similar. You're dealing with people that are need some help and are coming to you for help or trying to provide guidance. Maybe not throwing people in jail. Pastors don't do that a lot, but that some of those same aspects, being able to communicate, being able to work through
Mhm.
problems, be able to face tough issues. Like, pastors don't arrest people, but they sit down with people who are in really, really bad situations, try to walk them through it in a different support system. Having hard conversations is um, I think I take for granted as a strong communicator how difficult hard conversations are. I think I just the ability to talk to anyone and say anything and not care, but also try to deliver it in a professional way, I think is something that I recognize as a young person. And then obviously working in the youth home, doing verbal de escalation with kids, and that natural skill is very applicable into law enforcement.
Is there something like that that a person could look for in themselves to know that they might be suited? Especially, I'm wondering the easy path to cynicism in law enforcement. Is there something that you can see in yourself already that you might be able to handle that?
Yeah, I think you have to have a high tolerance for, um, not high tolerance for high emotion, but you have to be calm in the midst of high emotion.
Okay.
If I'm gonna just be, I'm an emotional person, but with stress, I like zero in. It's weird. Um,
Okay.
Even going through some, I talked about in the past about some personal struggles. I'd like people reach out to me like, you don't seem like anything's bothering you, but you're going through some pretty big life changes. Divorce is a pretty big deal. Like, what's going on? But that's for me, stress just like is zone in and I lock in, which is useful in law enforcement because then you can if you're escalated and emotions out of control, it's hard to make good cognitive decisions. So the ability to stay calm in the middle of pressure and stress is good. So
Good.
laid back people, people who are very calm, that's a very natural thing. Um,
Who would think? See, that's to me kind of a misconception that a laid back person is who you want in law enforcement.
yep.
And someone who's kind of volatile might think that's my jam because I want to go arrest people or something,
Well,
you know?
and a lot of cops are the what we call the type A personality. You think of them as bossy and telling people what to do and bad chevy. That's like the stereotype, right? And some are that way. But to have longevity and success, you got to be able to put up with a lot. And particularly like in this day and age, that 50 years ago, people weren't maybe that treat cops like that, but people have no problem. We just had an officer the other night. He rolled up to a street takeover where they're doing hot rod cars in an intersection and thought he'd roll up and turn his lights and sirens on. They'd all run away. No, they attacked the car. They
Oh
sprayed
my
it with fire
gosh.
extinguisher and started shaking it. And the respect for law enforcement culturally is very different than it was in years gone by. So you have to be able to take a lot of people calling you names and fighting and arguing, and
Gosh.
can't let that. You have to thick skin, not let stuff bother you, I guess, in a sense. Um, Definitely calm demeanor and be able to work through stress. Um, and just you have to be good ethics, good morals, and you have to be mentally strong. And that's something you can develop. You can
Yeah.
work through that. But you see a lot of terrible things, and you have to be part of a lot of terrible things that can be hard on your psyche. And um, so you have to be able to be prepared for that, and then also recognizing yourself when okay, I'm not okay with this, and now I need to go get help and get healthy again. So
Something you said makes me wonder if you struggle with something that I noticed in myself. I think I might have that as well, that high stress is I can handle because I don't know, I would spiritually I would say you get the grace for it or whatever, but what I found then is that boring life is when I struggle
yes,
because okay, you would feel that too?
yeah, probably sometimes
Yeah.
I do stress on myself because I feel I function better there. Kind of like
Yeah.
procrastinate. Some people procrastinate because they like to write the paper when they're pressured versus just
Mhm.
developing it. Yeah,
Yeah, I tend to say monotony in life is more and is I hate that more than trouble almost, which is not great. I actually heard a therapist talk to someone once on a kind of a podcast situation, and she said that that might be part of that person's problem at work. You want to feel high or low, or you're not, and you kind of probably need to learn that fine is okay. And I'm kind of getting there more as I age. I'm
yeah.
trying to.
I work I work a lot of side jobs doing security. Um,
Oh, right, we didn't talk about Billie Eilish concerts and stuff.
yeah, and some of those are boring. So I do some concerts, I do some sporting events. Those are fun. I will be at College World Series this week. If you're gonna be in Omaha for College World Series, Friday night, all day Saturday, I'll probably put some tweets out, come to my gate, say hi if you're around. Um, but then I also do some boring things like I work at a grocery store for a few hours, and it's in a good neighborhood and there's not a lot of problems. And so it is pretty boring. And people always say, "Oh, you got to be so bored." But then I say, bored is actually good in my line of work because that usually means
Yeah.
safe. So,
Yeah.
um, but yeah, it's definitely, and there's cops like that. They're the adrenaline junkies, and so if there's not something going on, they make something happen, uh, good and bad. Proactivity is really good, but you don't want to be a dangerous adrenaline junkie in this job because there's plenty of stuff that gets you hurt if you're not careful.
Yeah. I've learned this new phrase, this new word that I love, cohesion. It's in the book How to Build a Meaningful Life, and they say cohesion are these moments in life when who you are, what you're doing, and what you believe are kind of all aligned at once. It's not all the time. We can't all have it all the time. What would you say are um the times in life right now that are most cohesive for you? Is it
The
in
what in
law
life?
for the times in life, moments in life? Like, is it
Oh,
when you're negotiating, when you're with your kids? I don't know, but most
negotiating, which I don't get to do the primary negotiators with that you're actually the one on the phone talking. I feel cohesion with that. I don't get to do that as much anymore since I'm a leader now. But leadership moments, working liaison
yeah,
work. when we have a tough case where an officer might be in some serious trouble and the union's pretty worked up and the management's pretty firm, being that guy in the middle to try to make peace and understanding and make it go smooth, and help the officer come out better on the other side. Like getting in
Yeah.
trouble at work shouldn't be about getting in trouble. It should be about improving behavior and improving outcomes and making people more safe. And so helping people understand that those moments, I feel cohesion. Networking, I really enjoy networking and education now. So I recently went through several leadership trainings through a organization called FBI LEADA, and that was very fun. Working on executive level police leadership stuff and learning about that and networking. I feel a lot of cohesion there. Definitely, I'm a people person, so police management, police leadership is not as exciting as being a cop on the street. And people always joke, like, by the time you make it to a lieutenant, you're not really a cop anymore. You're just an administrator. You're just doing administrative supervisory tasks, which is pretty true. But the challenges aren't the citizens on the street every day. It's the personnel and staff and
Yeah.
conflicts and managing and helping new officers learn and improve and helping senior officers stay motivated and focused. And so um, that people is where I feel cohesion, working with people, leading, guiding, coaching, learning from. That's definitely
I
and
love
that's why
that.
I say I feel long calling in law enforcement is a calling, but I think who I am in that aspect, I could have found fulfillment in other areas.
Yeah,
I think
that's what it
I think
sounds
there's
like.
I think there's businesses I could have worked in where I felt the same way. Um, but I'm very fortunate that I do enjoy it. The occupation I am, I think I do find fulfillment there. I tell people too, another part of Gallup strengths, you may be stuck in a job currently, maybe long term or maybe short term, where you're not getting to exercise your strengths as much. And so it's not only you don't feel like you're finding success, but you don't feel fulfilled. And so if
Mhm.
that's the case, you need to find fulfillment outside of work as well. Um, my wife Raven she has a master's in divinity from Fuller Theological Seminary, but we have still one little at home, and we made the decision together that she wanted to stay with the kids until school. And so she does not work full time, but she has this ministry degree. She feels called to ministry. So she volunteers time as a chaplain, both at our
Yeah.
department and the sheriff's department, the community we live in. And that's again, it's volunteer. She's out there. She goes to death investigations and prays with family members and helps them through that time. Um, I don't know you call that a job because it's totally free, but that's the ministry side of her and stuff that she's not operating in daily right now because she's raising our little boy is she finds fulfillment another way. And so that's important too to recognize yourself. If my occupation, because I need the money, I need the bread and butter, if that's not fulfilling me completely, where do I find I can exercise my strengths and be productive and feel fulfilled somewhere else?
Exactly what I'm doing with this podcast. Yeah.
Great. It's great. I
You're
when
also
it comes to
reminding me. Go
go
ahead.
ahead. No, you go ahead.
You're reminding me of this Melissa Casera who I interviewed a bit ago, and she talked about adjacencies. And so she said she has this work identity that is storyteller, and she applies it a lot of different ways. She works with CEOs to help tell the story of their work. She actually tells stories. She writes scripts for television, movies. And that's kind of what you're reminding me of, that law enforcement is a calling partly because of the danger but leadership and that kind of thing is your calling, but
Yeah.
you're applying it in law enforcement, but you could have seen it other places. That's really cool.
Yeah,
Um,
and one thing I want to touch on about law enforcement that's great, and sounds like a sales pitch recruiting, which it should be, but um, when you work in a
yeah,
big department, you can have such a variety of. If you don't fulfilled in one area, you could try something else. So like for me, communication, it was easy for me to exercise communication as a street officer because you're talking with people. 80% of police work's talking. So I already felt pretty fulfilled there. But I knew I'd feel even more fulfilled to get the public information office and be working on writing press releases, talking to the press, doing presentations. And so I geared myself that way. So that's something totally different than line level stuff.
right.
Then there's also I did a stint in our backgrounds unit where we're hiring people. So you're working with applicants and you're interviewing applicants and supervising detectives that are doing it. They're doing an investigation on a background to see if you've got any skeletons in the closet we can't live with and that kind of thing. So again, totally different. It's investigative work. It's still police work, but it's for police applicants, not criminals that are going to go to jail. So it's a very different feel, different skill sets. Then of course you have detectives where you're doing more versus just live triaging on the scene, sorting out disturbances. You're actually digging into cases and researching and doing more. Some people enjoy that. Some people are more analytically minded than communication minded. And so then you could get into like a fraud unit where you're having to do deep
Mm.
paper trail work, tracking down paper trails and money trails and that kind of thing. And if you enjoy that, and that's very fulfilling, that's another niche role in law enforcement you could get into in a big department like ours. We have a full time mounted unit where you just get to ride a horse all day. And
Oh, what? I
yeah,
didn't know that.
we're one of
Oh,
the few departments left in the country that still have a full time mounted unit. So in fact, our mounted unit is there'll be a College World Series. They're all big events we have, but they're going to go down to Kansas City for the World Cup and help out with some other mounted units down there for crowd control.
oh my
Of course, we have a
gosh.
traffic unit. If you like riding a motorcycle, all summer long, these guys go out and ride motorcycles, and you write speeding tickets and you pull people over, but you get to ride a motorcycle all day. And then do parades. You do parades, and like when the president's in town, they'll do the motorcade escorts, and they escort the teams to the stadium for College World Series on their motorcycles. So again, like if you love bikes, you get a job where during the summer you ride a bike all the time. We have a helicopter, so if you want to be a pilot. Newer to our department now, we have a lot of drones, and so if you like technology, you can be a drone pilot. We have a
Ooh.
we have a real time operations center, so it's just like on the TV where you see like all the computer screens and TVs on the wall, and you're watching this camera. We have cameras all over the city that we're watching live, and we now have drones that they can launch from that center. So they're watching cameras all over town. A disturbance happens at this address. They fly a drone to that address to see with the drone what's going on minutes before the officer can get there.
Oh my
Uh,
gosh.
which has helped us triage. Like if there was a disturbance and then it's broken up and there's no real victims, they can just cancel the call and the officer not even have to waste time going there. But then also we find suspects a lot faster. Um, unfortunately, we've had a lot of officer involved shootings the last few months. But the chief said something very poignant the other day. He's like, we have gotten a lot better at finding the bad guys fast, and that puts our officers in the line of fire. Um, it's dangerous for the officers. We're having more officer involved incidents, but we're catching the bad guys faster, which is better for the community. So it's kind of an interesting. So all kinds of things you can do. We have school resource officers who are you just
Mm-hmm.
spend time at school and honestly spend a lot of proactive community relationship building with kids. Then sometimes you have to take enforcement action, but mostly it's positive. Um, yeah, I mean, it's just a wide variety of things you can do in a big department that's are very, very different roles. So you could feel like you're in a whole nother career, but still be on the same pay
Absolutely.
scale and retirement plan and all that. So
Amazing. Yeah, that's a classic redesign your life thing is that sometimes you don't have to leave the organization if you can just redesign your role in it.
yeah.
You might find your strengths more so. I have so much to think about, like I do with all of these conversations. Let's go to the last bit. It worked for me, where you tell us something that worked for you once, like an aha moment, or it regularly works for you to help you maybe not find more meaning in life, but center down on what the meaning for your life is.
So aha moment for me was probably in that PIO role in Casper, Wyoming, where I knew, okay, yeah, this is definitely what I was supposed to do. I feel the niche here. And part of it, I didn't know my strengths well then, but now in hindsight, looking back, I know that's what's happening. One of the exercises we do was called mining for strengths. And so to identify with your strengths and recognize them so that you can then know how to use them, they call it name it. Okay, this is my strength. Claim it. This is how I know it's mine, how I operate it, and then aim it. This is what I do with that strength.
Oh my
So
gosh.
one of the things you talk about is what's a time in your life, an aha moment, or a time when you were either working on a project, personal life, professional life, where you felt like you were operating on all cylinders, you were rocking it, and you felt really good about it. So you were being successful and been fulfilled at the same time. And we talk about that time in your life no matter if it's a season of a life or a certain incident. And then as a group, when you talk about that, we tell you what strengths we heard you operating in that are in your
Oh my
profile.
gosh.
And then you realize, oh, that's it. So for me, it was, in hindsight, now I know, I was in that PIO role, working with the community and the media so much. I knew communication and liaison work was that was where it's at. I felt like I could make a connection between community and police and bring us together, not further apart. Um, and in that, with my strong faith and feeling of needing to do ministry as well, I was like, I am doing ministry. I am salt and light to the community by being a positive influence. Um, and that was my aha moment. So that's what I knew I want to do. When I moved to Omaha, I knew I'll just start from scratch, but I'll recreate that, get to that place again. And then it's even more here to not just the PIO role, but more so in leadership roles as I promote up to the department. I know I'll carry with me. Um, and what worked for me was that I think that finding something I enjoyed doing that I knew I could stick out for a 30-year career. Um, and then that I know I can succeed at this. I have a skill set for it, and I know I enjoy it. It's going to be fulfilling. And what else can you ask for? Um,
Seriously.
I went through a phase as a young man because I love the outdoors so much. I thought about getting into the outdoor space, a hunting guide, or the goal was to be a hunting celebrity and get a TV show.
Well,
That's what.
yeah.
But one, I think early on I recognized my talents, and becoming a celebrity is there's a lot of luck involved and a lot of entrepreneurial hard work. And then two, I thought to myself, do I really want to do that for a career, or do I just want to save that as a hobby for myself, for my own fulfillment? So I decided not to pursue an outdoor career. Um, I think I submitted one article one time, and of course got rejected as a young man. I was like, yeah, I don't think I want to. I don't think I want to do this. Um, but the law enforcement for me was aha. And what worked for me was just that, finding what I knew I liked and I could succeed at and enjoyed. Um, and I think probably beyond the PIO role is when I liked going to college. Not, you don't ever like it, but when I was like doing college, and I got like straight A's in my bachelor's program, I was like, okay, well, if it's motivating me to do school, I must be in a good niche. So I don't
So
know what that looked.
you found the work really before you discovered your strengths.
Yes.
So in some ways there's luck in that, sort of.
Yeah. Yes.
But so what if my listeners though are like, I want to know my strengths? Can they just go to a website, or is it
I
like
mean, you can go and just pay for it and do it. I would encourage you to find a coach to help you
yeah.
walk you through it. There's a lot of, although the Gallup website, if you pay for the assessment and do it, they do have a lot of teaching tools on the website. You can learn a lot about yourself just reading about yourself. But outside of even if I would encourage people to do there are free ones out there, free strength, like personality profile things that can help you define a little bit of who you are and put a name to some things. And I think that kind of helps some people. Because basically you just want to find, for me, even though I didn't know my strengths when I was in that PIO position, I knew cognitively I enjoy talking to people and listening to people. I want to be on the roll. I do that. And I enjoy this connection piece and I called it being a liaison. I want to talk and be a liaison. Well, look at my Gallup strengths. That's because I have communication and harmony and connectedness. I recognize that now in hindsight. So if I would wish anything for people, would be that find whatever that is, whatever it is that drives you and motivates you and fulfills you, and then find a way to make money out of that. Whether it's a
Yeah.
defined job and that's why I tell people at cops when they're starting to burn out, I'm like, well, let's talk about what you enjoy and what you feel good at, and then let's see what job in the department we can plug you into where you
Yeah.
can still be a cop and enjoy that.
Yeah, I love that. I think sometimes I take these personality tests and it's just like, oh, cool, I see me. But I maybe don't take that next step and figure out how to apply it, what it means, how to leverage it,
That's
possibly.
the leveraging is the key. With the name it, claim it, aim it, it's that aim it piece.
Amen. Yeah.
You can name it. People will say, "Oh, I'm an Enneagram, whatever," but if they don't understand what that means for them and how that is to find success in that, is no good. Same with Clifton Strength Finder. If you don't, it's like another language. If you don't use it a lot, it doesn't help you. But if you understand it and you can identify with it and then use that, like Like
Yes.
for me, for communication, to prepare to promote, I needed to know I need to say these things out loud several times until it's almost a memorized speech, and that's where I found success because I recognized that's how I operate. So knowing how you operate, how you learn, how you process, and how you can succeed is really important. So honestly, the biggest thing is just you have to know yourself to an extent, and then um, know what works.
Yeah, I had that experience with Enneagram because it was my least favorite. I didn't love that one because it tends to highlight the negative, like you at your worst looks like this.
Yeah,
And I think I'm a 4, which is the individualist, kind of melancholy, um, artistic type, which fits, but I didn't really relate to the real melancholy side. But then I heard Ian Crone talking about it, and he's a 4 as well, so he knows them very well. And he talked about how we tend to live in our feelings, and the antidote is to do something. Do
yeah,
something with your hands, make a bed, wash the dishes. And I had already discovered of myself that when I, for instance, wash the dishes, it could fix my mood. And I didn't know why. I had no idea why. And kind of resented it because I didn't want to wash the dishes all the time. And then that answered it for me. Oh, that's why I'm living in my head and my feelings. And when I, do something, it really does fix it. And so that was the first time I realized, okay, wait, these can not just tell you who you are, but how to get
yes,
better.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So,
One of the things we talk about with strengths is there's no negative strengths. They're only positives because they're strengths. And so
right.
we don't strength shame. We if if someone is like if you're an activator and a deliberator, we don't tell each other, well, you're a deliberator, you're wrong. No, that's just their strength. So you find a way to make that work. And the heart behind that
Don't
is
strength shame.
because there can be weaknesses. So like we they don't like to call them weaknesses. They call them balconies and basements with
Oh,
strengths. So it's where does your strength make you really high succeed and where can it kind of drag you down? And for me, like harmony, stereotypically people with harmony avoid the conflict. Well,
yeah.
is very near. You can't avoid conflict in law enforcement. If you do, it's going to cause problems. And so you have to just recognize that that can be a deficit to that strength or talent. And so how do I stay on the positive side? So
And
that's
the way
good.
you did it is you want to get to harmony and you
Yeah.
realized you got to face the conflict to get there. I
Yep.
love that.
I, I want peace. So we're
Mhm.
going to
We're
talk
going to
about
work
this.
for it.
And that's work life and personal life. You recognize that like, and in my personal life, it's like if there's some conflict or we're not eye to eye, or I'm like, we got to hammer this out, and talk to it because we got to get to the other side. So
Yeah. Okay. I don't even know what I'm going to do. I do not want to cut 1 minute of this, but it's
super
been long.
super
But
long, you know.
oh well, people can just fast forward or I'll put the chapters in so people can listen to what they want because I loved every second. I am
Well, thank you.
so grateful to you. Thank you for being on my show and thank you for being pretty much the best brother
Oh,
ever.
I am your only brother, but thank you. I appreciate
I
that.
admire you deeply. Deeply.
Well, don't tell Felicity and Charity, but you're always been my favorite.
Yeah, yeah, you probably tell them that too.
I I lived with Charity.
I'll take it. That's probably why you lived with her.
Well, I'm very proud of you for doing this podcast. I think
Oh,
it's definitely helping you operate in your strengths, and I hope you get Joe Rogan rich from it. So go for it.
oh, is that a thing? I can make money from this? Tell me about that. Yeah. Oh man, thank you
I'd
so much for being here. And I will hopefully get to have you back.
love to be it. Love to do it.
Talk to you later.
Bye. Bye.